Welcome to Apology. I'm your host, Christine McKelvey. Today we speak with Kiki Walter, editor of publications on Medium such as The Memoirist, Age of Empathy, and Black Bear. Kiki also hosts a podcast with co-host Christopher Robin called The Unfocused Writer. I encourage you to check those out. Kiki shares her experience with her own mental health journey, revealing how her dance with depression became one of the cornerstones to her writing. We also explore the profound healing that can come from sharing and connecting through stories and the art of writing. I hope you join us. We'll be right back after a few seconds. Stories of hope, healing, and resilience. I'm your host, Christina McKelvey. Today, we're going to be speaking with Kiki Walter. Hello, Kiki. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you.
I'm glad you're doing well. You know, it's Monday. How was your weekend?
I've had a very busy weekend. I'm in the middle of a move.
Oh, gosh.
So, this weekend, it was a lot of going back and forth. I'm not moving very far away. So it was a lot of packing, a lot of moving boxes. It's an exciting time.
You know, moving, at least for me, can be exciting because it's new and I like to organize and go through things. But the whole packing and unpacking is just always so daunting. I don't know if that's the same for you.
It is very daunting. Especially, I am kind of a person who is encased in chaos. Have a chaotic mind. I'm not super organized. So it's a lot, but I'm having fun with it.
Encased in chaos. That sounds like a movie name.
It does. I don't really even know if that makes sense, but it's what popped out of my head.
No, it does. It does. Well, Kiki, I asked you to, come on the podcast because I've been following a lot of your publications on Medium, Black Bear, Age of Empathy, The Memoirist. And I find those publications really amazing, especially Black Bear. I have read a few of those where it's like stories of mental health and sobriety and recovery. And so I just wanted to chat with you a little bit today on how you came to create those different publications and your own story regarding it. Tell me a little bit about those publications and how you came to create it.
Sure. So I have 3 big publications and then some smaller ones, but I'll just address the big ones right now. Our number 1 publication is The Memoirist, and I started that publication a week after I joined Medium. I was looking for a publication that was for memoirists. That's my genre of choice in writing, that and in personal essays. And I couldn't find anything any publications that I wanted to publish on. So I just created my own and the rest followed. Age of Empathy, I acquired from another writer, and Black Bear, I started right around the time that I began intensive outpatient treatment for depression. And Black Bear, and also I have experience. I have a background in mental health, writing. I was a content director for several years. So I know the genre well, and I'm comfortable writing about it. I'm comfortable editing stories about it. And I was really looking for personal stories for all 3 of my publications. I really like that personal touch. So almost, even with the essays, more, they almost feel like memoirs because I like when people talk about themselves. People relate to people.
Yeah, it almost helps with the empathetic building, increasing compassion and empathy when you're hearing someone's story because you're like, oh, I relate. I've been there.
Yes. And I think that's especially true for Black Bear. Many of the comments are in support and, saying, me too, I've been through this as well. So that publication in particular, people have a connection there. I think they really connect to the other writers, and it's become a community of its own, much like the Memoirist is a community. So it's been really fun seeing it grow and building it.
Mm-hmm. And you said it started a few months ago or earlier this year?
I started it, I believe, in December maybe of last year. It was sometime around there, just kind of basing off my own journey when I would have started it, maybe November. Yeah. Seems like I start my pubs in November, so we'll go with that.
Okay, that's the theme.
Mm-hmm.
I tell me a little bit more about that your journey where you mentioned you were in IOP yourself when you started Black Bear and how that might have maybe helped your own personal journey through IOP, which for our listeners means intensive outpatient therapy, or
Mm-hmm.
how, vice versa, how maybe that informed your writing.
Well, writing, as you know, is very
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic.
Yes.
So when I started intensive outpatient, I did take a writing therapy class.
Mm-hmm.
And, just writing really helped me find some balance that I needed. And starting the publication, starting Black Bear, I felt like I was giving back to other people, not just in sharing my story. At that time, I felt very free to write about it. I go back and forth with how much I want to say and publish about my own personal journey, but it was just important to me. I was like, this makes sense for me at this time to start this. And I do feel like writing about my experience in IOP, writing about my experience with depression over the years was very cathartic and helped me immensely. And I think that it's true for other people who write on Black Bear. I hear that a lot.
And in what ways does it help you? I know for myself, I read back some of my old journals and I'm like, whoa, it's almost like reading. So I'm
Yes,
curious.
I've done that.
Yeah, so I'm curious how maybe even during most recently or, over the
Mm-hmm.
years, writing your own memoirs, how that helped your personal mental health journey.
Well, that's a good question because I actually started out as an actress, and one of the things I always said was I connected to acting because it
Mm-hmm.
was a way to get my emotions out. I tend to bottle things up. And I ended my acting career when I had my son. I was 31 years old at the time and I've always been a writer, but I started focusing more on writing as a hobby. And for me, it was just a way of getting those emotions out again. It was the same thing, pouring my feelings out on paper, experiences through memoir or an essay or, a piece about mental health. It just gets that angst out. It gets, the ball of, whatever in your stomach that's just sitting there. I can pour it out on the paper. Well, the proverbial paper. I just sit and let my fingers fly on my computer and
Mm-hmm.
it's like it all comes out. And sometimes that's good. And sometimes as I've grown as a writer, like I'll have Christopher Robin edit my work a lot of the time because I basically write, pour it out, and that's it. I'm not a big drafter. I'm not, so sometimes he's like, okay, you got to rein it in here, rein it in there. But I just pour it all out. I don't really think too much when I'm writing.
Sounds very similar to the morning pages.
Yes, it is. In fact, when I stopped acting and got into writing, that was one of the first things I bought was Julia Cameron's book. What's it called?
Oh my goodness,
I know, it's like on the tip of my tongue.
I was just The Artist's Way. I was just reading
The Artist's Way. Yes, I bought The Artist's Way, and I would go on and off with journaling, but I loved the concept of morning papers, whether it was in the morning or not. That is definitely an approach of mine, just letting my fingers go, letting my mind go, and seeing what I get. And then I can refine it a little bit. Like I said, I'm not really a drafter too much, but of course I go through my work and see if I need anything to add, remove, words that I've used 15 times in one paragraph, that kind of thing. I'm a much better editor on other people's work. I'm not so great with myself.
I relate to that. And you're like reading like, oh my goodness, how did I write this? Yeah, so it sounds like there's almost like a sense of freedom for yourself when you were, when you write, and you mentioned letting your emotions out, similar to acting. And it's almost like this sense, I'm wondering if there's like a sense of safety, because like at least with acting, I'm not me, I'm acting like someone else. So I can do this.
That's exactly right. Definitely a sense of safety and freedom. I had my ex-husband was kind of controlling. So I've had like an issue of getting into these controlling relationships in the past. And it was something that was my own. It was, my writing was my own. It belonged to me. Nobody could control it. But that actually ended up not so true either, because in some of these past relationships, I had one long-term relationship where he would not like something I wrote, complain about it. I started feeling very censored in my writing, and I don't usually censor myself. I don't like that. So that was one reason I stopped writing for a while, was that particular relationship. And in my current relationship, he's very supportive of my writing. So that's been really great. So sometimes, it really depends on the person and your personality, but yeah, I get stuck in my head a lot. So it is very freeing to write and get those words out, get those thoughts out.
Yeah.
Without feeling like I'm being hovered over.
Freedom and safety go hand in hand.
For sure.
Yeah. With my clients, I will tell them, I'll assign journaling, and I will tell them, that you can write in your journal and then rip up the paper, shred the paper if you need to, or write over it, or don't look at it at all, but you're getting it out. There's just something about, whether that's through writing or acting or songwriting, like you said, getting those emotions out so they're not bottled up.
That's funny. I have a friend who gave me some really great advice. When I got back into journaling this year, which again was about the time I was in IOP, I'm very specific with the date. Everything is uniform. And he said, don't do that. This is your notebook. This is your book, your journal. Doodle in it. Do whatever comes to you and what you feel. You don't have to keep it neat. You don't have to keep it super organized. Just get your feelings out in whatever way that might manifest, whether it's writing or drawing or, scribbling really hard across a page, whatever you have to do. It belongs to you. It's your book. You're not doing it for anyone else. You're doing it for yourself. So I really loved that advice. So now I'm using colors and it does look like a mess, but it's mine. It's my mess.
Exactly. It's your mess. Yeah. I love that. It's my mess.
Yes. I think that's a good attitude to have. My life is my mess.
It's having that space and freedom, that sense of safety to be able to be a mist in a mess, and having those emotions out. And it sounds like your old relationship didn't allow for that, but now you have that freedom. And so it definitely makes sense that you came back to writing and started these publications.
I needed an outlet of some kind. I'm a very creative person. So I need some kind of creative outlet, whether it's music or writing or, I went through a jewelry making phase. As long as it's something that I can use.
What is it about creativity what is it about creativity that you feel plays a really big part in healing and recovery? And just,
I think again, it's safety. It's the safety and freedom. I think in recovery, whether you've suffered great trauma or you have depression or you're on a sobriety journey, I think that creativity is a great tool because it helps you think about your emotions. It helps you focus your emotions. It just helps with healing because of the safety aspect, I believe. And maybe people are creative and they don't feel they have mental health issues or, whatever, but I think it can help everybody in some way being creative, whatever that might look like. You can sit and play a guitar mindlessly or make your jewelry or paint a picture. Again, I have a friend who's gotten really into painting and, it's a great outlet other than writing, besides writing. So it's just that whole freeing your mind and allowing the inside of your soul to the, depth of your stomach, just get it out. And I think getting it out, learning how to get it out is, again, very therapeutic and what you're aiming for, to not be afraid anymore of those feelings, having that hope, having that drive to move forward.
yeah, the hope, that drive, not being afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you just said. Allow the inside of your soul, like allowing the depths and just
Mm-hmm.
having it like get it out, like getting out those feelings and emotions. Holding them in just doesn't really help anybody,
No,
yourself
and
or others.
holding them in, I found caused physical issues for me in the past couple of years until I went to IOP. I really was suffering with a lot of physical stuff going on, neurological issues. And since IOP, I've had a very freeing experience with my body. So I'm not in the pain that I was anymore. And I'm pretty self-aware and I've, been able to manage my depression. A lot of things came together at once when I went into IOP. But like I said, I was in the mental health industry, so I knew the importance of getting help if you needed help, if you wanted help. And the timing was perfect for me. And I wanted to get help getting my head straight and not just pressure myself into doing it. I wanted that safe place. And it was a safe place. And I would highly recommend it to anybody who's going through an issue. I mean, you don't have to go to in-person treatment necessarily. You could, the IOP program was all online. And I still go to an alumni group. And it was just so great. So great. I mean, it was the best thing I could have done for myself.
Yeah. That's when you started Black Bear.
And that's when I started Black Bear. And because mental health was such a big part of my life at that point, and wanting to heal and wanting to get to a better place again, that all I was thinking about at that time was mental health. So yes, the timing was perfect to create Black Bear.
Yeah. And I'm curious about, you mentioned it was the perfect time for you to go to IOP. If you don't mind sharing, what was the catalyst or that aha moment where you're like, I need a little bit more help than I could offer myself?
Yeah, I really can't talk about that. I'll just say that I was in a place where everything in my life was just overwhelming. And I just knew I knew in my gut that I could probably get through it eventually, but it would
Yeah.
be best if I got some help. And the physical issues really drove that as well, because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I had some kind of serious thing going on or if it was related to my mental health. So the physical issues that I was suffering from, I was having trouble walking. I had severe pain, neuropathy. I had severe pain in my neck and headaches. I mean, the whole thing, and it really made cognitively, I had issues going on. So, yeah, it was the right time. And at the same time, I decided to take a sobriety journey. It was just, I wanted to be healthy. I just wanted to be healthier. So that's been about a year for me as well. And it's been great. Even drinking a glass of wine or two a week, was not good for my depression.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to, take my entire life into my hands and do something about it, do something to feel better all the way around.
Well, congratulations. You said it's almost a year. So
Mm-hmm.
congratulations for that. And you said you wanted to feel better. And I think that's like the biggest thing right there, right? Wanting
Mm-hmm.
to feel better, whatever that means for you or others.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. And it's interesting you mentioned the physical symptoms, and we won't go fully into it, but when you
Mm-hmm.
hold your emotions in, like I always like tell, clients, like sometimes we're tense, our shoulders are tense and our muscles get tense. And it's because I think we're tense, we're holding in those emotions. And so when we are feeling free to be able to express those feelings in a safe way, a lot of my clients will say that they feel relaxed.
Yeah.
Or not just my clients, people, myself, I've done that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a sense of freedom, like you mentioned, and feeling relaxed and just at ease.
Well, when I finished IOP, I started going to, and this is going to sound kind of woo woo, but I started seeing a bioenergetic practitioner.
Oh, what's
And
that?
so, how do you describe it? Well, we did what's called tapping.
Yes.
So we did tapping. It's a lot of like mind and body focus. So it was kind of like the perfect thing with me since I was going through those physical issues, really using the mind and the tapping and the, you know, type of, she also did talk therapy with me, but
Okay.
so it just was bringing it all together and learning how to let go of that stress and anxiety and depression that I was holding in my body.
Hmm.
And it was better than any other therapy I had. I was trying to see a one-on-one psychologist at the same time, and it just didn't connect with me in the same way. So this bioenergetic practitioner, she's just great. She's wonderful, and she actually runs our alumni group as well. And I have a great connection with her, which made me feel safe and free to really explore myself deeper.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds very somatic, like
Yes,
somatic experiencing. Yeah.
yes, very much so. And I think many of my issues were somatic. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, it was great.
Hmm. Well, that's I love hearing your journey. Like you're like, I'm having this physical pain. I have, these things going on, so I
Mm-hmm.
need to go to IOP. I enroll in IOP and I need to start this publication, and you mentioned that like other people are telling you how inspiring and helpful Black Bear and the Memoirist and these publications are. So
Mm-hmm.
it's you're helping others by helping yourself and that community.
Yes, yes, and it feels great. I love that.
How has the sense of community been through Black Bear Medium, just in general writing, the writing community?
It's been amazing. I have my circle of friends on Medium and Twitter and Instagram and
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting how each platform we relate to each other differently.
Oh,
Like
that is
comments
interesting.
on Medium are different from, when you're getting into a Twitter circle and just and it's goofier. And then Instagram, you kind of see glimpses of another person's life. So it's just really interesting to me how they all work together and how they're different, and the community we've built, it's just you're seeing different little snippets of each person. And we have a Slack channel for our editors, and we've also opened it up to, inviting certain people if they'd like to be part of it. And that's been really great too. I mean, we're a big family on there. And that's the thing about Substack that I tried Substack as well, and I really missed the community feel. Well, I didn't miss it because I was still on Medium, but
you noticed it didn't have it.
Yes, it wasn't the same. And the community supporting one another is just incredible when you find the right people.
Yes.
Just that, especially when you're writing essays and more personal work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just going to say that community really can help with growth and healing. That connection, that's just really something that's been a theme that I've been finding. And so it sounds like even within Medium and the publications you've made and just writing, you've been able to find that sense of community. And I'm curious how that's been beneficial for you personally.
Well, like many writers, I'm very much an introvert, and I don't really have a big group of friends where I live, which is okay because I am an introvert. So I have my one really close girlfriend and then some friendships through my boyfriend. But for the most part, I stay at home. I'm a homebody. So the community through Medium has really given me a sense of friendship and people I can talk to, in a couple of instances that I can confide in. It's just brought these cool friendships. And, it sounds kind of geeky, my friends are all online, but in a way it's
not
true.
At all. Yeah.
In a way it's true. And, just supporting each other when you write something, or supporting each other, when you're going through a life change. It's just been great having that group.
All your friends are in your pocket.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they knew what I was going through when I went to IOP, but I didn't really talk openly about it too much. I wrote about it a couple of times, but I can also be a very private person.
Yeah.
So I'm selective with what I put out there on the internet.
Pretty wise.
Even though I don't censor what I'm writing, yeah, there are certain topics I won't write about. Like I don't write about my children. And that's just a personal choice I made, actually stemming from, going to custody court a number of times. So yeah, I don't really talk about them. If I do, it's in a very general manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And writing about other people is like such a big topic when you're an essayist or a memoirist. How far can you go? What can you say? And it really depends on your relationships and you. It is a very personal choice. I often use real names, first names. I don't use full names. And sometimes I will, give them fake names if it's something I really don't want them to worry about being online. But yeah, it's interesting being a writer of personal stories in that way, because you're bringing them into your stories as well. But you need to keep it about yourself. The story shouldn't be about others, because you're not in their heads. What you've observed and what you've experienced belongs solely to you, and it's inside of you. So you can write about your experiences. But they're your experiences. They're how you've perceived actions and situations. And, there is a way to write and be considerate. And I think a lot of people get confused by that. It's a question I get asked often, what do I do about writing about my family or whatever? A lot of common sense, really.
Yeah, especially if you're writing a piece that might not paint that other individual in the best light.
That's right. And I tend to stray away from those, although I have written about my past marriage in probably not a, I mean, there were issues and I would write about them, but I finished the story usually in a hopeful way, in a
Mm.
hopeful and
Hmm.
positive note. So, I talked about my experiences with my ex-husband, but I end it by saying how close we are today and what good friends
Hmm.
we are.
Has he read
Yeah,
them?
I hope not. I hope not. I don't know. I don't know if he's read my work or not. I'm really shy about, it's so weird. I'm really shy about sharing my work with people in my life.
I
Um,
understand that though, because the
yeah.
people closest to you can say the most hurt, well, can say fun things.
Well, yeah, you worry the most about what they think.
Exactly. There we
So
go.
I don't really ship things out on my own for people to read. Like my mom, I didn't even tell her I was writing again. And after about 9 months, she must have been Googling me or something. After about 9 months, she shows up as a follower on my Medium. I'm like, okay, well, the secret's out.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
But that's fine. She's probably my biggest champion.
Oh.
She's always telling me, "You got to write a book. You got to write a book." But yeah, she's proud of my writing, so that's cool. I mean, it's nice to have someone who's proud.
Yeah. Yeah, having that cheerleader and
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes she'll comment too much. I'll be like, "Okay, stop telling me you love me in the comments." It's freaking me out. But
Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah,
love
it's
that. Oh,
sweet.
moms.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I have been writing a lot of personal essays as well, and that is something that I've been trying to figure out is, the who you mention or who you don't mention or how you go about that. A lot
Hmm.
of the essays I write about are my parents, and both of them have passed, so it's a little easier. Um,
Yes, I've written about my parents as well. There are some topics I'd like to write about. And my
mhm,
father's passed away now, but I don't want to hurt my mom's feelings. So
mm,
there are some topics I don't touch, but I have written about her and my stepdad. But I'm very careful. I try not to bring any bitter feelings or, or angst into my writing when I write about family. I choose to write about the good experiences and great activities we did and the positive things. When it comes to my family, I don't feel like it's necessary to write about how I may have felt as a teenager regarding my family. I was very independent and angsty.
mhm,
I'm using
mm.
that word a lot, but yeah, so I'm just careful. I write about them, but I'm careful.
Yeah, and it's interesting when I mentioned earlier that when I read my past journals, I'm kind of like, what in the world?
Hmm.
And so when I read my journals from when I was a teenager, talk about angst, and I can't imagine, my perspective have definitely changed. If I was to write based off of that experience, that perspective,
Hmm.
how different that would be considering how, like, looking back at it.
That is the interesting thing. And I've gone back and looked at things that I wrote back in 2008 and I cringe. I absolutely cringe. I'm like, A, this is so poorly written.
Yes, for
B,
me, yes.
I was a mess.
Mm,
C, yeah. And I've redone a couple of them, rewritten a couple of them, but you're right. Like when you're at a different different place in your life, your perception can be completely different from when you wrote about it the first time.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've experienced that as well. I was blogging back when mommy bloggers were a big thing, and I considered myself a humor writer at that time, a humor writer and a memoirist.
Uh-huh.
But most of my stuff was, I don't know, I don't find it funny at all.
Look, you mean looking back at it, you don't find
looking
it funny?
back at it, I'm like, what? Why did I call myself a humor writer? Because this is so not funny.
Oh no.
I don't know. I must be old and cranky now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll read stuff that I wrote even a year ago, and I'm like, oh
Hmm.
my goodness, why did I put that out there? Or I have a blog, and I've been editing my blog because I want to compile it into something, and I'll read past blog articles, and I'm like, wow, I should have proofread this before I put it out on the internet
Yes, you
and told
find all
everyone
the
about it.
mistakes, all the mistakes you find. It's, and I'm like, why didn't I have someone look at this for me?
Uh-huh,
It
uh-huh.
was a disaster. And at the time, I thought it was, brilliant. You think what you're putting out there is like really great. Oh, I'm going to make $1,000 from Medium for this. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. The growth as an artist and as a writer, just as you get older, I think it's true, with age comes wisdom, and it really shows in our work. Not my work right now, I'm not saying that, but like in
Yeah.
general.
Well, I think also with age comes the ability to free yourself more. I
Hmm.
think it's more difficult when you're younger to be completely free with your
Hmm.
writing. You're holding things in, you're holding things back. I think there are a lot more worries. And when you get older, at least for me, I'm speaking for myself, but when you get older, you just don't give a shit anymore. You don't care anymore. It's like, I'm putting this out there. This is how I feel. This is my experience. And I don't care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
You might care, but you know what I mean.
You might care about, like, your mom.
Yeah. My mom. And in my podcast, it's always every week I say something that I'm like, sorry, mom. It's kind of the running joke.
Whoops.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I attended one of your Medium Day, one of your talks, and I thought that was amazing. And I do read the different publications, especially Black Bear, because
Hmm.
and the Memoirist, and I find it wonderful that there's this sense of community and sense of safety to for people to come and write and submit their stories, and just have a place to share their experiences and hear about
Hmm.
other people's experiences, or excuse me, read about other people's experiences. So I just think that's amazing.
I
So
could
thank
not
you.
do it without the help of Chris and our team of editors. They are
Mm,
amazing and they
mm-hmm.
basically run the show. They're it's just a brilliant team and they're family, and I can't thank them enough for what they've done to help create a community and work with writers the way they do. I think there's a sense, at least I think, what I've been told is that people do love the community feel of our publications. And, you know, from the beginning, I've always wanted it to be writer centric in that we help the writers, we respect the writers, there's a sense of honor there. We're all writers on the platform. So I don't want anyone to think I'm better than them or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. We're all peers.
Yeah.
And I want people on my publications to feel like they are being respected for
Mm-hmm.
their work.
And that's so important and valuable, especially in
Mm-hmm.
this field.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Well, Kiki, I like to ask this question to every guest because the name of my podcast is Hopeology, which
Mm-hmm.
means the study of hope. And these stories hopefully are glimpses of how one finds hope, how one develops hope, maintains hope, including resilience and healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to ask, where do you find your hope? Or what gives you hope?
That's a great question. What gives me hope is my inner strength and the knowledge that I can get through anything and have been through a lot, and that there is still positivity in my life. Of course, what gives me hope? My children give me hope, of course. I'm very close, especially to my, 21-year-old son who's now in Chicago, but he and I are very much alike. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and it's wonderful seeing her youth every day and how she's growing. She's just in that stage where they grow so fast. And my writing, knowing that I can be free in my writing and that that's a special place for me.
Hmm.
And I just think that no matter what I go through, if I have another bout of depression that's significant, I can get through it. I know I can get through it. I've gotten through it before, and I can get through it again and feel joy and just feel. Yeah. I mean, I don't see any finality in anything. I just see how things can always be better, and you can always work to make things better. And, you might not think that there's a reason to have hope, but that's got to come from inside you. Your hope lives inside you, and it's up to you how you let that manifest.
That hope is found in you.
Mm-hmm. I hope I worded that just in a way that makes sense, but your hope is inside you, and
Yeah.
it doesn't die. It does, even if you think it does, it's there. It's there. You can always work toward making things better and healing.
Hmm. When you were talking about hope being inside you,
Mm-hmm.
I pictured a tree in your heart, a seed, and
Mm,
and a plant. It's just slowly growing, and it's always growing. It's always getting large.
yep.
Maybe goes from that little plant to a giant sequoia, as we
Yeah, I
get
love
older.
that.
Yeah.
I always say I look at life like a canvas, and
Mm,
you have your broad strokes, you have your small detailed lines, and you just keep adding to that canvas. And some of it may have come from a negative place or a hard, something difficult that you went through. And some of those broad strokes are the good things in life that you've experienced and the people and your
yeah.
relationships and connections and what you've connected to, whether it's a sport or writing, or there are all these different pieces that make up who you are, just like the branches on your tree.
Hmm.
Um, and there are, all these different paint strokes that make up who you are.
We need to find an artist to paint something like that.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I love that. Well, Kiki, this was great. Again, I do love the work you're doing, and you and Chris Robin and all your editors, with the different publications, and I look forward to seeing how they grow. And I really appreciate that you decided to come and join me on my podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
You're welcome. Man, I really enjoyed that podcast episode. I enjoy all the episodes, but this was really interesting because we really talked about the power of sharing stories and how that can be healing. Again, please check out her different publications that are on Medium: Black Bear, The Age of Empathy, The Memoirist, and her podcast, The Unfocused Writer. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, please listen to other episodes. There are several. And if you want to leave a review or rate this episode or other episodes, please do that on Spotify or iTunes. And also, if you want to buy me a coffee, there is a link to do that as well. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed Hopeology, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Thank you for listening to Hopeology. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave us a review. To learn more about us or listen to past episodes, You can find us on all your podcast streaming stations. If you are interested in being a guest, or if you have any feedback, please email us at hopeologypodcast@gmail.com. You can also support our show by clicking on the link in our show notes. Please also follow our Instagram page, Hopeology Podcast, and visit our website, www.hopeologypodcast.com.